What's up, y'all? What's up? What's up? What's up, man? Oh my goodness. Hold that thought 1 second, if you don't mind. We will get right on into this. I can assure you we will. We'll get right on into it. All right. So this is pretty crazy stuff, I think, for a lot of us who, unless we take the time to learn something else or something different that maybe we are not used to, that sort of a thing, then in some ways we are very ignorant. And this clip is pretty fascinating. I think that every human being should hear it if you want the truth. I really do. It's fascinating stuff. um, we are there we go. It's always something with Facebook, I swear. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So we're going to get this on in here. Now, listen, this is a pretty fascinating piece of audio that you're about to hear. Shout out to the Awakening Cosmic Reality Show on YouTube, which is where I found this, and so many other very interesting things. And I did put a link to the video in the description, and I'm also going to put a link in the live chat here momentarily. But I just listen to this is all I can say. This is an account of a scientist that ran into a super soldier. Listen, I'm just going to let this audio just play. And I'll let you think from it what you will. It is audio only, so let's go.
Hi, it's Ileana, and today I am going to be discussing the Antarctica Underground Super Soldier Labs and what I had seen there when I was sent there to basically inspect one of the labs, because one of the super soldier hybrids who was created there, he escaped from the regeneration tank. He was supposed to be in cryogenic stasis, but for some reason he wasn't in full stasis. So he escaped from stasis, and from the regeneration tank, he broke the glass like material that the tank is made out of and escaped. From what I remember, he was really tall. He had sort of greenish skin, greenish gray skin. He looked humanoid, but he was muscular, tall, and he had claws. Instead of fingers, he had claws. So, this is what I remember seeing an image of him on one of the holographic screens on the walls of the facility when I was being briefed about who escaped. Um, and he was bred for extreme agility and extreme strength. So he was made for the front lines of wars and fighting. There was also female super soldiers being bred in that deep underground facility, and that facility was not under the ocean. It was deep underground in Antarctica. There's also facilities in Antarctica under the ice sheets, deep under the ocean as well. and it's protected by electromagnetic shields and field frequencies. So the labs are impenetrable, both the underground ones and the ones that are underwater. So the super soldier who escaped, he couldn't fully get out of the lab. He was recaptured and put back into stasis, cryogen stasis in the regeneration tank. Um, but while they were searching for him, I basically got a tour of this underground facility because it's a huge facility. So he was being looked for in the tunnel systems because he managed to escape in the underground tunnels. But it's not that easy to leave Antarctica itself. Since it's remote and it's very cold and icy. So basically, I got to see these rows and rows of regeneration tanks with these super soldiers who had the greenish gray skin, the claws. They were very tall, both male and female. They had hair. All of them had long hair. So, and I got to see the broken regeneration tank as well, because they called me in to figure out how to reset the security protocols for the lab so nobody could escape from cryogenic stasis anymore and actually get out from the lab. So that's why I was called in to inspect the lab. That's what I was there for. And I got a tour of this lab and what was there. The Antarctica underground laboratories that make the super soldiers and the underwater ones, they're doing experiments for crossbreeding of human and ET hybrids, as well as genetically modifying humans to create the super soldiers. Often the super soldiers have advanced abilities like becoming invisible, being able to change weather, work with water manipulation, fire, electricity, and they have fast reflexes. Some of them have wings, scales, almost like exosuit armor that protects their skin, and it's natural because they have scales, wings, and hard shell bodies because they're very muscular and tall, and they also have claws. That's what I saw in the beginning when I was looking at these regeneration tanks with these super soldiers inside. And other super soldiers are crossbred with animal genetics and can shapeshift into animals or partial animal human forms. So they can take on the humanoid animal form of lions, cheetahs, and other cat species, or wolves, tigers, or they could like fully shapeshift into those creatures, or they can take partial form of those creatures with humanoid appearances. Many of the super soldier labs and hybrid chamber tanks are in the Antarctica underground laboratories. The regeneration tanks would create the hybridized super soldiers, and they would be held in the tanks until they were ready to be deployed on missions. The regeneration tanks in the underground Antarctica labs had various types of colored liquid goos that would mix with the ET and animal DNA together with the human genomics in order to create different species of super soldier hybrids. There were many rows of the regeneration tanks lined up throughout the Antarctica underground labs. There were 4 main labs in total, 2 under the ice sheets deep in the ocean, and the other 2 labs deep underground. Some of the labs had blue glowing walls with holographic computers streaming data projections on different hybridization programs in the facilities. The hybridized super soldiers were being kept in cryogenic stasis and inside the regeneration tanks while their minds were being programmed with uploads and downloads of their future mission parameters and what their personalities would be like in terms of who they are as beings. when they're out on missions, because they do have to integrate with being able to go out in society on various different missions, whether protecting planets, stopping red flag events, etc. One of the two Antarctica underground super soldier laboratories had gray walls that were reinforced by steel so that the hybrid super soldiers could not escape from the facilities. These facilities had regeneration tanks that can fully grow clones, ET human hybrids, augment super soldiers with psionic abilities, and mix the DNA of ETs and animals together with the human super soldier genomics and create various hybrids that are no longer fully human with advanced strength, agility, and other capabilities. The regeneration tanks have been utilized in various Black Ops underground medical facilities and labs like Area 51, Antarctica, Mars, and on other planets where full body regeneration of soldiers is required. While I was in the underground Antarctica laboratory, I saw that there had been reptilian, amphibian, and gargoyle like super soldier hybrids being created in that particular underground Antarctica laboratory. The regeneration tanks would splice the ET as well as the animal DNA with the human genetics in order to create the hybrid super soldiers. There were both male and female hybrid super soldiers that were being made in the labs. These soldiers had large bodies, muscular bodies, wings, claws, and advanced strength and agility. One time there was an instance when one of the hybrid super soldier experiments almost escaped from the labs, and SSP assets were sent in to do inspection work to determine how the breach of protocols had happened, or someone could almost break out from the labs, and how to strengthen the protocols so this could not happen again. It was a male who broke out, one of the super soldiers, and he had like scaled armor on his body, and he was very tall, and he had claws on the hands and the feet, and he had swords with him. So he was being augmented to fight with swords. So that was interesting. These labs are often deep underground or under the ice sheets of Antarctica, so there is too much water to escape to the surface and to leave Antarctica itself. So while I was in the Antarctica underground facility, I had been seeing the female super soldiers, the human ones, in the process of being augmented with the hybridized reptilian and dragon DNA. So I would literally see their skin color kind of change to greenish orange and grow scales on the forehead, and the head and hair color change from brown to black. And sometimes they would even grow horns, and their ears would change, their arms, their whole body. They would grow scaled armor on the human skin. So instead of human skin, they would have scaled armor. And their hair would extend and become longer. Sometimes they had tails, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they had wings, sometimes they didn't. It really depended on what types of dragonoid or reptilian hybrid they were being created into. So this is what I would see. So there was a mixture of the hybridized reptilian / dragon DNA, and also horned humanoid female super soldiers that could fly, since they had large wingspans. They had advanced telepathic abilities, super strength, and agility. And I would often see the female hybrid super soldiers that were being turned into reptilian with dragon DNA augmentations. So that's what I would often see, more so of the female super soldiers than the male. I'm not sure why. I was shown the female super soldiers more than the male ones. Um, but that's kind of what I got to see the most of in these labs.
So I am joined
That's
now
crazy,
by
right?
Levon
Oh, wait,
Rockwell,
there's
the
more.
parents of
Wait, there's more. There's more, right? So, if it seems so impossible that super soldiers would even exist, then you should check out a recent report by the BBC. China is currently in process, or is it a myth? Is it a myth? Or is it reality? Is it possible that China is currently developing their own versions of super soldiers? Like any government in the world would want that type of warfare. I mean, come on. Humanoids with wings, with scaled armor instead of skin. Are you kidding me? Is it immune from, that's insane. But we're talking about military dollars that could be thrown behind, a black hole project could be created, right? To do something like that and hide the money in that. I mean, there's absolutely no accounting for any of the money that goes into any of those black hole projects. It's just like a total just open door, boom, money gets in there, boom, like it's black fucking hole for real. What's up with it, Sevens? What's up with it? So we're talking about like, okay, maybe this may be on the extreme side here, all right? And this could even match with some of the stuff that we hear that happens out of that secret 7 stories down laboratory that's ran in Dulce, New Mexico, right? Right here underneath the great old United States. But imagine a soldier that could withstand pain, a soldier that could withstand extreme cold, doesn't need to sleep, has armor for skin, claws for fingers. Be quite a tantalizing prospect for some high ranking special ops military groups. Imagine an evil private military group like Wagner, for example, getting their hands on something like that. Not only a technology, but a piece of warfare. Hey, what's up with it, Third Eye? But China is also looking into techniques such as gene editing, exoskeleton technology, and human machine type collaboration technology. And as much as this shit seems wild and just insane and crazy to even think about, it is a real possibility. We are talking about even things like the technology of soul transference, of literally transferring one's soul, their essence, their soul, their crazy whatever sequence, high geometry sequence that we are as souls, as individual souls. But there is a way to somehow harness that and transfer that. I mean, that's how deep this stuff goes. Okay. I mean, just imagine. Imagine being able to live, I don't know, 500 years by transferring your soul into a regenerated body that's cloned every, however long it takes. And I hear there's two main types of cloning the way that they do this. They have the capability to not only clone from, having a child born, but we're talking about the growth of a full on adult human body in a matter of 6 months. Now, China's been doing some very secretive medical, experiments. We're talking about the Chinese military aspiring and also recognizing ambitions of where technology is currently at this very moment, right? And the possibility of super soldiers. At the end of the day, this is something that they feel is feasible within science. And we're talking about using gene editing, changing the DNA of embryos offers one of the most plausible routes to become a super soldier. Genome editing, assisted reproduction. These are becoming routine practices in what they're calling transgenics in agriculture. And it's a combination that humans, supposedly humans see as an unethical type of combination in this field, okay? But here we are talking about the Chinese using it to create these edited versions of human beings. They're literally marking the genes like, oh, yeah, we're going to double up on the muscles. We're going to, we'll give them 3 eyes. We'll give them, instead of 2 arms, we'll give them 4. Or we'll create a set of wings on their backs for these versions. I mean, there was an announcement by a Chinese scientist back in 2018 that he had successfully altered the DNA in an embryo of twin girls to prevent them from ever catching the HIV virus. So that was interesting. But it also brought a lot of outrage because we're talking about outright gene editing. And this work is currently banned in most countries, including China, normally restricted to discarded IVF embryos. Imagine. You get an embryo taken out of your body, and somebody considers it a discarded IVF embryo somewhere down the line, and there goes your poor little baby. Anyway, this is a practice normally restricted to discarded IVF embryos as long as they are destroyed immediately afterwards and not used to create a baby. Scientists, go back and forth on this whole thing as far as ethics are concerned, and some feel it's just not right to just completely edit out a gene in a human being to say, okay, plugging what's going to be a living cell in your DNA code and what's not, and what traits can be added and what traits can be removed. I mean, but imagine the potential there. What could it do for the military? I mean, even we know that the United States has had plans. There was a report in The Guardian that came out regarding a U.S. military agency that was investing tens of millions of dollars into genetic extinction technology that could wipe out an invasive species, something that UN experts even warned could have military applications. So we've got China and the US, and then we've got France, whose armed forces have been given approval to develop, quote, enhanced soldiers, end quote, with a supposed report laying out ethical boundaries for the research, okay, which is interesting. You're going to have to go outside of some boundaries to ever really make something. I mean, isn't it always that way? A literal possible Captain America, you know? Genetically modifying, there is no telling the types of money that goes into this whole thing, just period. And the technology itself is highly sought. And I mean, some of these, I know that any of these governments out here that are worth a damn would absolutely love to get their hands on some technology like this, especially the United States of America, and surely is engaged in these, some black hole projects. That's why they call them black hole projects. And somehow there's all these weird companies that pop up, like, I don't know, like things like Skunk Works and weird shit named like, ABC Corporation. Whole lot of military money running through that place. This CRISPR technology also that people talk about, that is, people have even made use of this technology to create twin embryos, specific and precise changes to the DNA contained in the living cell. Again, literally the ability to remove and add certain traits. Being able to treat or even cure potential inherited diseases. Like, wow. Now, if you had a lot of money, would you be one person that would invest in the transference of your soul from one soul body container to another, meaning another body, right? Like, I don't know what it would feel like, but surely there's some pretty rich people that money is no object for them, right? To go through a procedure like that. That's why you hear of so much like just weird shit that happens in Hollywood, in Hollywood, especially because of they have a lot of money. So more weird shit happens, but this is a pretty fascinating I don't know. To me, it was a pretty interesting, fascinating listen. Just the possibilities of what it opens up, knowing that it's not even just America that's doing this, knowing that we've got China openly saying that they're working on this type of technology, and France talking about they want to somehow figure out how to enhance soldiers and all this stuff, all this. And I know it may not seem like much now. It may seem very strange, very weird, but I'm telling you, you would be mind blown if you knew the types of things that goes on in a 24-hour period, like while you're just lollygagging around at home, chilling, sitting up, watching Netflix, eating ice cream and shit. Man, it'd be some weird, wacky shit going down in supposed legit places in America, other governments, other places that are considered no government territory, like some of the most strangest experiments that involve every animal you could think of. in every splice of the human DNA genome you could think of. There's weird creatures found on the beaches of New York, those Montauk creatures. Absolutely. Everyone thinks they came from Plum Island, which is known to have done very wild animal experiments. And then Third Eye, on top of all this, right? We've got a spy balloon currently flying right over the United States of America. And here's what's crazy about it. Why ain't it been shot down yet? Why is it still flying? And China has acknowledged that it's theirs? Is that them saying, like, if you shoot it down, some sort of chemical weapon is going to drop up out of it? Like, what is this all about? I mean, do it once. Shame on you know what I mean? Shame on you. Do it twice. Shame on me. I mean, just spy balloon just going right over Montana. But yeah, on top of these sorts of strange stories, the talk of how the cloning technology, how it's advanced at this point. We're talking advanced insanely at this point. I mean, imagine a super soldier in which, like I said, heat doesn't bother them, the cold doesn't bother them. Imagine being able to develop an individual with like greater muscles, or making it a possible for an individual to be able to breathe at high altitude without oxygen tanks, or being able to deal with the ultimate cold up there. I mean, I know it seems like some science fiction-y type shit, but they also call CRISPR a revolution, and it's pretty damn amazing how the science of cloning has come so far in just the last 10 years alone. It's like a door opened up, and it was just like bam, bam, bam. We're going to clone the woolly mammoth. Shit, we got projects going on in Dulce, New Mexico. We got whole freaking altercations happening. We got super soldiers literally being created in regression tanks in Antarctica and other bases around the world. I mean, these are not the only reports of these super soldier labs, but they are very few. The leaks are very few and far between. Interesting. No wonder why they would put them deep underground, right? Because you would have to worry about another country wanting to take over something like that, taking over your technology, taking over your sciences, like everything. Straight up. Anyway, guys, I thought this was pretty interesting. And keep your eyes on cloning technology. And also keep your eyes on this whole, like, the woolly mammoth and these other prehistoric dinosaurs being like so-called recloned, and this whole fantasy that you motherfuckers have, like, yeah, we're gonna reclone T-Rex and we're gonna put him in a Jurassic Park, but we're gonna put it like in the middle of the ocean, like on the Solomon Islands some fucking where, and just like fuck up the whole ecosystem over there. I'm just saying, be careful. There's a reason why things go extinct, is all I'm saying. But they're talking about not just the woolly mammoth. They're talking about the rhino mammoth, bringing it back. Massive, massive, huge, very hairy, woolly rhinoceros. Very powerful animal, to say the least. But so I don't know, will this CRISPR technology be more damaged than good? You should look it up, man. I'm telling you. This is stuff that mainstream newspapers have talked about, man. There was an actual report on Fox Business, okay? Straight up, titled China reportedly trying to make super soldiers. Straight up headline 2 years ago. Even Gravitas, is China breeding genetically modified soldiers? MSNBC, US official says China attempted to create super soldiers. Like, this is some real deal shit. We're getting it through those sorts of mainstream, sources. And even Russia, talks of Russia, recently even bringing up the idea of cloning recently discovered ancient warriors to create a super army. Now, I know that sounds insane, right? But think about this. Putin, money is not an issue for him. He has a whole fucking private army, the Wagner Group. You don't think this is something that in a private space, someone would risk their whatever, would violate whatever bounds it is to make that happen for a private military group to have a tool like a super soldier at their disposal? Shit. But think about this idea for a second. What if, and this is according to some reports, that this is what President Putin brought up, all right, at a meeting of the Russian Geographical Society. This is what Putin brought up. What if we cloned 3,000-year-old soldiers and created a super army to defend Russia? Is that not a crazy question to bring up at a meeting? Maybe you're trying to get out in front of the right people or whatever, but and we're talking about the defense of the Russian Federation. All right, let me make sure I get that right. He is a close ally of President Putin, but come on. We've heard some pretty wild, strange things about Russia. Even things to the alien side of the house, okay? They have their own like Area 51 and all that sort of a thing too, but imagine just even those sorts of, you'd have to have like Putin money to do something like that, right? To try to make that a reality. But it's like very disturbing political possibility though there. Like, you could bring up some of your best special ops guys and they'd be getting like just cut the fuck down. Like, think about that. Cloning an army of 3,000-year-old Scythian warriors to defend Russia. And that's how these rich dictators think. Like the impossible, they try to make it possible. And there is this type of technology happening. So anyway, I kind of wonder, like, what conquered those people 3,000 years ago? Like, something conquered them. I mean, plus that's a lot of time to invest, unless they do that. There's like two modes of cloning from my research. I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but I've just heard, that they do have the ability to grow a human-sized body in like a matter of 6 months. It's pretty incredible cloning technology from what I understand. So maybe they'd resurrect them fairly quickly. I don't know. But all this talk about the woolly mammoth and the the woolly rhinoceros and all these other prehistoric dinosaurs. And we're going to have a Jurassic Park, and then we're going to sell tickets. I mean, I think people really, really have legit put a dream in their mind, like, one day I'm going to own my own Jurassic Park. I'm going to be the first. I'm going to be the first to own my own Jurassic Park. I'm going to have a T-Rex, and of course they're going to go for the worst animal possible. They're going to go for the T-Rex, all the reptile, carnivorous, ones, but because it's just man's savagery. And listen, people, I feel like at the end of the day, these sorts of medical ethic questions, at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to matter. I think Russia will do what it wants to do. China will do what it wants to do. So will the United States and any other country that has the capability. Because that's almost like developing warfare, but yet not under any sort of like treaty or anything that you're bound necessarily by. You know what I'm saying? But yet you do it top secret because you don't want the other side to ever get wind that you're doing it, so that they can develop certain said things. But it's like, damn, if I knew that you were growing some genetically modified human being that could slay, 5 men in one swipe type shit. This motherfucker don't even need oxygen. Just give this motherfucker a gun. He's good, okay? Just don't set him on fire. But he don't need no air. He don't need no oxygen. That bitch, he can swim for 2 days if you need him to. It's just unbelievable type shit. Warriors, baby. Warriors. Y'all, I'm out of here. Until next time, everyone. But before I leave, shout out to the Leak You community. Please join us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm out of here, guys. Thanks to everybody who came through. Shout out to all y'all, man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye, guys.
Weapons, biologically enhanced capabilities. Pretty sure that's the plot line to Captain America. But the reality, we might be talking about Captain China. That's according to a new warning from the Director of National Intelligence about the threat from China. And by the way, a warning that has rare bipartisan agreement.
China intends to dominate the world economically, militarily, and technologically. They intend to be the world's superpower.
That's John Ratcliffe, of course, who is out with that new interview and op-ed. And the two leaders in both parties on the Senate Intelligence Committee say basically he's right, that China, quote, will stop at nothing to exert its global dominance. But here's the part of Ratcliffe's warning that is especially noteworthy. He says China's efforts include human testing to help develop soldiers with those biologically enhanced capabilities. And that is why, of all things, we are talking about super soldiers right now. With me now is Ken Delanian, who covers national security and intelligence for NBC News. Ken, really? How real is this? How far along is this?
As you said, Hallie, this does seem like it's right out of a Hollywood plot. But what we know is that the nation's top intelligence official says that the U.S. has evidence that China is conducting biological experiments on its soldiers to enhance their capabilities. And as you said, he said this as part of an effort to convince Americans about the dire threat to American national security from China. So I was somewhat skeptical about this claim. But when I started poking around, I found that private American military experts in the think tank world have actually studied this issue and written about it. And they have found that there is ample evidence that Chinese scientists are very interested in applying biotechnology to the battlefield, and specifically the CRISPR gene editing tool, which raises a ton of questions. Picture super strong commandos who can operate on 3 hours sleep, or a sniper who can see twice as far as a normal person. This is the kind of thing that the Chinese aspire to doing. And, you know, it's problematic because in the West, we consider that to be unethical, to tamper with the genes of healthy people. The CRISPR tool is generally confined to sort of trying to cure genetic mutations and disease and try to improve plants. No one understands the implications of messing with human genes. And so that's a real worry. And it also sort of underscores, Ratcliffe and others say, the extent to which China is committed to military superiority over the West, Hallie.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy.